made a contact that they were both teaching here in the States. He was teaching high school and she was teaching in high school. And they made contact with an outfit that brought them in touch with Buckner at Dallas, Texas. And so they were out at Glorietta at a church conference, and they got a call that Buckner had a little girl, newborn, that they would like for him to consider taking. So they rushed back to Oklahoma City and then on down to Dallas. And that was Melinda. They saw her and they decided to adopt her. So they had 6 months to wait before they go back to Liberia. They took a leave of absence to get there. And they went back for another tour, and on the next tour, well, they decided they wanted to adopt one more child. Well, they came back on another leave after 6 months, and that is after 6 years there. And located in Oklahoma City, where her folks were. And they made application at Mercy Hospital in Oklahoma City. And they didn't think they would get any response, but they wanted a boy this time. So finally, after about 2 or 3 weeks, they called them. They had 2 boys that were 4 days apart that they'd been holding. They were only about less than a month old. But they wanted the boys. They were the same, only 4 days apart, practically the same age, and both healthy and everything. And they wanted the 2 babies to go to the same home. So they debated about it. They finally adopted the 2 boys. That's Pete and Andy. And they had to wait then until the time was up they could take them out of the country. So actually Melinda and the boys, all of their early years were in Liberia. Well, then Jimmy had blood poisoning over there and died, and John had to come home with it. These 3 little tykes. Melinda was 4 years old and 5 years old, and the 2 boys were just able to walk, a little short fellows. Looked just like, I got pictures of them down there on the wall, that cowboy outfits that the Helps had taken there. So anyhow,
Charlie, want anything to drink?
they had nothing.
Or Jamie.
Tea. Iced tea.
And Harry has 2 daughters, Laura and Melissa. And Melissa has 2 children, a boy and a girl. So that's extent of
And
that.
John remarried.
Then John.
And John remarried. He was back here with, I met Ann before he did.
You want anything, Uncle Tom?
I don't, but
I had to
I'm sleep when I go home.
to help out with the kids. We put them in nursery school up at the cottage. And I take them up there and bring them back, and Ann was the Home Life Department of Home Ec, and had charge of the kindergartens. And I'd meet her up there, and then Aunt Lois, she got acquainted with it, and she thought a lot of Ann. And they're big OSU people, Cousin Mary, her father and mother. And she has 3 sisters. She, her mother, and her 3 sisters are all graduates of home ec at OSU. And Bud played football when he was in college there. So Ann has fit in very well. She, anyhow, John wasn't interested in going meeting her. Lois had told him he met a little girl. He raised the kids for a year and a half. they stayed with us that year and a half, and then he finally found a house and bought it up on the other end of the street. And Melinda was getting large enough that she could help with the cooking and so forth. And he fought it with 3 kids there. And anyhow, he finally, he was teaching down at Ripley. And the principal down there at Ripley was a good friend of the Griffins. And he kind of pushed John getting acquainted with Ann, and she had never even thought about getting married. And probably going to be an old maid, but anyhow, they finally made up. She'd really been a stabilizing factor in their family's life. The 3 kids.
Plus the fact her family are terrific people.
Okay, I think maybe we better get back to Uncle Charlie now, and
Oh, gosh, that'd be a long.
Uncle Charlie can tell about his
We can't stay too
his kids, I guess.
We got 2 hours more of that day.
Yeah, we gotta go to Enid.
Again,
Hey,
I guess-
we got carbide lights by any chance, so
Before-
we can see where we're going.
Well, Claire May is the eldest. And
she was born where then? In
1918,
Manchester.
Manchester. Okay.
Manchester.
Manchester, yeah. And, well, let's see. Was Halsey born
In Waukeeta.
Waukeeta? Okay. And, well,
None of your family is born in
No.
Billings?
Yeah, Russell.
Or Russell?
Russell was born in Billings, see. And of course, he's,
Waukeeta.
you know, he passed away here quite a few years ago. Now, he was, actually, it was cancer, see. And of course, Bill's first wife there was cancer.
And Barbara.
Barbara.
And Barbara's was cancer, see. You know,
Well,
and
that one.
Bill was born where then? Bill was born where?
Kita.
Waukeeta?
Daddy too, huh?
Yeah, Halsey and myself and Bill were born in Waukeeta and in Bunkin, Billings. Clairmaine and Manchester.
Yeah, Billings, Oklahoma, the home of Henry Bellman and Russell Long.
Who's Henry
Hometown.
Bellman? Next up.
And Hal Long.
Is that,
Well, let's see. After you, after you got out of school, where did you work? Then go down your jobs.
They,
He went to Norman. He went to OU.
Yeah, he did.
I started in the bank, see.
Big Red.
And I worked at that, well, the first bank was at Gibbons, say. Then later, got a better offer to go to Manchester, say. And we were there, I think, about 2 or 2.5 years. And the bank at
Waukeeta.
well, Bulls there, Waukeeta, see, they were having trouble with their bookkeeping department, see, and they had talked to a fella about the setup, see, that was his business to sell those kinds of systems. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, if you want to buy one, I'll tell you a fella that can really set one of those things up and start it going for you. And of course, I was the guy. And so they made me an offer, see, and I told Jay Mallory what it was, see. And Jay said, well, I'll take that up, but I don't think that there's any chance of us paying that. Of course, now, Jay was he was a small stockholder, and the bank was owned by the New England National in Chicago, Illinois, see. And that's where I started in on those great big leaves. They were about that square, see, and they run clear across that line, and if you got down, it was something, see. I think that's why I lost the sight of this eye.
Then you went from the bank to
What?
C.D. Williams? You went from the bank to Williams?
Yes, then
Before you ever
I
started
went
working.
to CD, see, to work on the outside, selling the oil, see, but also to do the bookkeeping for the store, see. And when they'd had the store stuff so botched up, see, because Uncle John, he couldn't, he didn't know anything about it, but he tried to oversee it. See. Well,
John Williams.
John Williams.
so I finally got that straightened out, see, and then CD bought out the Kleinsmith's interest in the motor industry, see, so he put me over in there to manage that thing, and
But where did Weldon come in the picture?
what?
Where did Weldon come into the picture? That when you was at Weldon, when you was at Billings?
Weldon,
You know any Weldon?
Weldon?
Well, who was the man that was in the Billings
Lou
Ford
Bratton.
agency with you?
Partner. Was
Lou-
that CD?
Oh, Walker.
Walker.
Yeah, Lou Walker, yeah.
Out of Memphis,
Well,
wasn't he?
that was
Sleepers?
when we bought that Billings
That's Sarah,
agency.
we're gonna put her down.
He had one at,
Lou got,
He had one at,
we got into that depression deal, and
Yeah.
Lou had bought the, one between, Medford
At
and,
Lamont.
Lamont.
no, it wasn't
Lou and Bratton
Lamont.
had that one at
No,
Lamont.
I can't think of the name of that.
Yeah.
Well, that one folded up, see, and then of course the deal there at Billings, the bank went broke
Yeah.
and the whole thing, and that folded up,
Yeah.
see, and all.
But Dad, before you ever did all this, you went down to OU for a semester or two.
What?
Before all this, you went down to OU for a semester
You went
or
to
two.
school at OU for a semester or two.
Yeah, just one.
One semester.
And back down
And
there.
And you came home because you,
I came home and put out a crop, see. Rented part of the Live and Good
Yeah.
stuff, see. And before that, see, I'd already worked at Gibbon, and then the bank there at Manchester, they he'd checked with the fellow at Gibbon, see, and he called Dad up and he offered me a job, see. And of course from Manchester then later went to Waukeeta, and from then Waukeeta went in.
Well, did you go in the bank, the Guthrie Bank, when you was at Waukeeta? Did you ever work at the Guthrie Bank in
Red
Waukeeta?
Guthrie's bank.
Guthrie's back.
And Bull owned the bank of
Bull owned the
Waukeeta.
town.
I mean,
Did you, after Manchester, did you ever work in the bank at Waukeeta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the Guthrie Bank?
No, Bull.
No, Guthrie was the Citizens Bank.
That's where Ed,
Hughes.
And I worked with,
Lois worked.
H.A. Bull was the
Yeah.
chief executive officer there.
Lois worked at the Guthrie Bank.
Yeah.
Now, Charlie, while we're talking about this, there's one thing that is not in sequence, but I wanted you to tell them about the time when you as a kid, you went down to Uncle Charlie's and stayed all night. Spent some time down there, and you didn't know anything about what happened at night, but the next day you did. You might tell your story of that.
Well, now you mean about that shooting?
That's right.
Well, now I don't know anything about, but there was a family there. There's been some bank robberies, see? And there was a family there that they had suspicion of. Well, during the night, I woke up and I looked outside there in the yard, and my gosh, there must have been 25 horses out there and men standing around, see. And the first thing I knew, why, they took off. Well, I never thought anything about it. And the next morning when I got up, Uncle Charlie was out there raking that yard all up to getting on. Well, what they did, they went out there and they called for this fella to come out. And I don't know whether he told them to go jump in the lake or whatnot, but they just started in firing, say. And
So who was the fellow? Was he a fireman down there? Who was
well,
he?
now the fella, what they fired, they suspicioned this guy was doing this robbery business, see. And now they didn't, after they done that part of them, why they just broke up, see, and all. Well, now then the sheriff come out from Kingfisher, see, and now he never did interview me, see, but he come out there and checking with Uncle Charlie, and of course Uncle Charlie didn't know anything about it. And there wasn't any evidence around there, you know. But what they did, they killed one party, but they just went off and left that person that was killed. They disappeared that night before daylight, see.
The posse?
And they
The people that lived in the
the
house.
people that was living in the house that they was shooting up, see.
Well, Lloyd, you didn't tell about your experience with the anti-horse thief setup. You was a mogul in that for several years.
I want to go back to Charlie's deal, as I've heard it down through the years, is that what they did is supposed to fire above it to scare him, but somebody got too low and shot in, and my recollection is that they killed a woman, but they left her. And where this plush was north and west of Uncle Charlie's, north and east of Uncle Charlie's.
Yeah, north and
Right? The Daltons lived 5 miles east and a mile south of Uncle Charlie's. Now, we don't know whether that had anything to do with the Dalton part of their gang or anything, but because for years, nothing was ever said about it down there at all. And it was only through Charlie, and then one time I picked it up with some of the Clump family, that this group had been out there riding. And, but the Dalton gang was there. Mrs. Dalton was always there, stayed, and everybody liked her.
Well, I don't know, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised, but Mr. Clump was in that.
It could have been.
See? All I know is Uncle Charlie.
Yeah. You see, Dad Clump was the first sheriff, elected sheriff of Kingfisher County, and had been United States Marshal there. And so, after so many years, it filtered down that Uncle Charlie had been involved in this. And then it came back to Charlie, somehow Charlie Long told that he was instructed to say that, as far as he knew, Uncle Charlie was there all evening.
Charlie, one thing we need you to do is go on from where you worked at the Ford business at Billings, how you got to Garber and where you went from there.
See the Billings, see that bank went broke there, and well, things really went to pot, see. Well, when they sold out that sub, I couldn't buy it back. And the attorney we talked to said it wasn't best. So Neal was the one that bid it in, see. And,
1933.
well, let's see, how long will we operate that under your name? 2 or 3 years?
Something like that.
That was 1930 when?
31, wasn't it?
Alaska.
Went to Garber in
They
35.
moved to Garber in
Did you go to
33.
Garber in
Yeah.
35?
No,
33.
We moved to Tulsa in
34, Charlie.
Well,
Yeah.
Alice May was
You moved to
born
Garber in spring of 34.
the last.
Huh? Who moved to Garber? You?
Charlie.
33.
33.
34.
Summer of 33. Summer of
We moved to
33.
Garber.
That's right, yeah,
Yeah, I was 10
that's
years
right,
old.
that's right. Yeah.
Number 33, and then you had the Ford agency. You and Dad were in together at that
Well,
time.
No.
now there was
not
about
33.
$1,500 in there, and in the bank. Now, the
He's getting too tired.
I think the note was $2,000 that I owed, see, and there was some collateral other notes that I had taken in was put up on that. Okay, so when they for the time when they couldn't pay the taxes, see, that's when they filed on it and advertised it and put it up for sale, see. Well,
I was on a ragged edge there. That was a cute
Neal was the
sale.
one that bid it in.
They
see.
broke it in lots all over the machinery and the parts and
Yeah.
everything else. And then after I bid on everything, I managed to get a few dollars over on everything. Then they lumped the whole thing together and bid again on the lump sum. I had to be over
It
on
happened.
both of them in order to get it. So
In other words, on the lump sum, it had to exceed the
that's
other
right.
bids. See.
Somebody else that
Yeah.
bid that amount,
Yeah.
they'd get it.
But nobody bid against you, did they?
No, they
See,
didn't.
nobody.
They knocked it
So
off.
then,
Well,
When-
now
Then he
the
came
wind
over
up.
here.
Now I'll tell you the wind up on that. They had there was still, after they took the cash in there, see, there was still I think probably $1,000 that was unpaid. Okay. Now the fellow that the bank commission put in charge of it, see, was a pretty good friend of mine. And so I went to him and I said, what can I do now to get the rest of this out? Well, he said, you don't do anything. He said, you'll have to have somebody else do that, see. Well, so they went ahead with the sale, see. But now, this is after the sale is, okay. Hal Jones went and found out what he could get that for. Now, I couldn't do that, see.
Talking about the
Because
note.
I would have, it is already sold as far as but he bought it, the bank commissioning, see, that he bought that and then turned the notes over to me for a Ford car there that was about $700, see. And so he got the car, I got the notes, see.
Well, I was under the impression that the main reason that you were in a bad condition Was it the Oklahoma City manager of Ford Motor Company forced you to take 75 cars and you had no chance in the world to sell them?
Well, they,
Tire well fenders.
now those cars, see,
I remember them fenders
Set-
hanging up there.
set on
Top of
the
Model
side
T,
track
Model A
out
tire
there,
well
see,
fender.
in the car, and we never did unload them. My gosh, I couldn't have sold them, see. And
Cause all the oil field workers were gone with their cars and never ever paid their notes. And Daddy was still paying that guy in Enid, after I graduated from high school, he's still paying off somebody in Enid. Who was
I
that?
tell you
For all
one
those
thing,
bad notes.
Unloading those cars out of those box cars wasn't
What
easy
was,
to do.
what was the fellow's name that was?
Then he
in
moved
Mechanic?
to Purville, Texas in 1968.
What
Thank
was
you.
the man's name that was your head mechanic?
Tell me
there?
the kids, give the kids names in order and who they married.
Why?
That's part of history.
Claire May Cameron married A.B. Cameron. You want the year? Year they married?
1939.
Yeah, that's all right.
1939.
And we have two children,
Okay.
Albert Craig Cameron III and Mark Lee Cameron.
Okay. How many grandchildren?
I have two grandchildren,
Okay.
Aaron and Timothy. They're Mark's children.
Okay.
And then Halsey had married Betty Jo Milton, and they had 4 children. It's Deborah Jo, who married Larry Hayes, and they have 2 children, Lara and
Brandon.
And then John, who married Sharon Hayes, and they have a little girl named Haley. And the twins, Leslie and Tracy. And Bill married June Carson, and they had 4 children. Pamela Kay, who's married Dale Rouse, and they have 2 boys, Christopher and Derek. And Carson and married Missy, can't think of her last name, Missy, and they have 2 children, Nicholas and Jay. And Craig is not married. Lisa married and is divorced and has a little boy named Travis. And June passed away, and he remarried and married Vivian. What's her last name? Holly. And they live in Cleveland. And then who's that? Halsey and Bill and Bunk married Barbara Hunter. They had 4 children. Benji married Debbie.
Weldon.
What?
Was it Weldon?
No,
From Guthrie.
Debbie, somebody from Cushing. And they didn't have children. They're divorced, and he married Carol. And they have, Carol's had 3 daughters, and Benji has adopted them. And then there's Nancy. She married Steve McReynolds and had a little girl named Lee, and they're divorced, and she has remarried Mitchell Highfield. And then there's Joe. He has never married, and Jenny Beth, and she is not married either. And then who else?
You missed one.
Oh, that's me. Betty Jean married
The middle
married
child.
Paul Monroe Calmes, and they have 2 children. Charlotte married Franklin Hannibal, and they have Burke and Sarah, and Monty married Gail, and they have 3 children. Heather and Marcus and Christian.
Boy, that's funny.
Y'all did good.
You did very well.
That's what civil service does for you.
Now, just go around and let everybody tell who they are and take their picture now.
I got the pictures.
Okay. Let them tell who they are. Start
Listen,
with
Monroe.
Money
Well,
well.
that's easy.
And there's Betty. Clear me behind Betty over there.
Here I am.
And then there's Aunt Lillian. Aunt Dorothy, she's back here in the dark. Can hardly see her.
Right
Hey, that helped. That helped the deal. All right.
Get Sarah down.
Sarah's right down here. Yeah. Okay, Sarah.
She's Charlotte's daughter.
Right.
Okay.
Of course, we got the rest. Well, we got the rest of them. We know who they are. They've been talking all evening.
You didn't get clear around
Yeah,
here.
there's Ed.
Let's get these headlights.
Take a picture of Bill.
Gotta get Bill. Right there's Bill.
Until you get, I don't know where to go with this.
Oh, that's all right. We'll get Dwayne up here someplace. Where are you, Dwayne? There you, Dwayne and Wanda. Both, yeah.
Lois Jean there, she.
And Jean.
No, you come get on this side and get one of yourself.
Hal.
And I think
Right out there.
I think we need to say the occasion for this is we're meeting on Saturday night prior to the celebration of Uncle Charlie's 90th birthday.
The Saturday night is on August the 23rd, 1986.
There you
Good
go.
for
Read
you.
that.
We got that in there.
His birthday's August 25th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his birthday's August 25th.
25, August 25th.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're celebrating on the 24th with
running
a
start.
family luncheon at the XYZ Center in Garber and a reception at the Christian Church from 2 to 4.
I don't know.
And
I
this-
don't know what all they got planned there. I bet him
Yeah,
might.
well.
We started out with hamburgers and melon.
Start out with hamburgers and melon tonight at Halsey's.
And the 22nd of October this year, Uncle Charlie and Jenna have been married 70 years.
Wow.
If I got the number right a while ago.
I think we're gonna go ahead and close this down tonight. It's getting late and we can catch Uncle Bill and Dad here in town.
And Uncle Don can come back over and Uncle.
We got his.
Well, we
We've
pretty well got
yeah,
Uncle
got most of them,
Don's.
yeah.
And Uncle Neal's and Uncle Charlie's, and we can get Dad's and Uncle Bill's here in town
How
sometime.
come you call me Uncle Don? I'm so young. I don't know.
You've been Uncle Don as long as I can remember.
Not with Claire May and all things.
I wasn't calling you Uncle Don when you was throwing that knife at my dog.
Our daughter Stacy.
I wouldn't doubt it. I don't remember that.
I can remember plain day.
You ever hit him?
Woman,
I don't know what you did. Yeah, you probably did.
her
I can just see you going out that driveway and getting out of the car and throwing back at the dog by the windmill or up in that area.
Marcy
We
Cat.
never did tell anything about that old
And
one-room
she, her district
schoolhouse
was
and
around
the land that
Stacy
sat
worked for her
on.
at DC.
Yeah, I would do
Yeah.
Didn't tell at all how we
Yeah, federal
used to
congresswoman,
play
yeah.
shinny on your own side
US
with a tin
representative,
can and a limb cut out of a hedgerow. Already too much of it you've missed.
Yeah, there's a
They call
lot
it
that
hockey.
we haven't had time for. I figure most of you are probably going to church tomorrow. But
Oh,
I
good
will
saving
be
church.
at the XYZ Center in the morning by about 10 o'clock for any of those that aren't going to church and want to come down there and visit. We'll have coffee and iced tea made and if you want to do that. So,
Well, Bill might have found his way home when he chewed the rope loose, but my pony ran away with me all the way from Victor home one night when I was in the first grade.
Let me tell you one on Hal.
On Hal.
About 6 years old, probably, when you were living up there at the farm. And I guess I stayed up there a week, visiting with Hal. And the old sow had a litter of pigs.
That's funny.
Big old sow.
Yeah.
Great big old
Duroc,
sow.
Jersey.
And
especially
I'm
at your
sure
age.
that Hal knew better, see, but I talked him in, us getting in the pig pen to pet the little piglet. And so we climb over the fence, and we get in the pig pen, see, and about that time Aunt Blanche sees us, see, from the house, see, and about the same time the old sow starts getting up, see, and she hollered, and Hal starts crying. I don't know why he's crying, see, but he's get out of the pig
Sorry
pen.
for you, probably.
So we both get out of the pig pen, and I didn't find out until later. I couldn't understand why he's crying. He was crying because he knew better than be in there.
He knew he wasn't supposed to be there.
I didn't, but he knew better than me in
I
there.
won't admit it.
With him, with that old sow, with that strange litter of
You
pig.
tell
One
the
old
pig.
sow, if it was the same one, she'd eat you if you played
Right,
with pigs.
right.
You tell him the
That's what
pig
that
story,
does, right?
Bill. You tell him the pig story. Uncle Don won't admit it, but while we were living at the farm after we left Tulsa, Lois and John and Harry and I, on one July Sunday, it was hot as a firecracker, and we'd been over to Meekle to church. It's just about the time that, I don't know, Uncle Don was still, he and your dad were still there. It was right about the time we moved over there. And Gillespie down south had put hog wire around their field just west of the house. And we're running always 100, 150, 200 head of pigs, shoats, fattening them out. And they got to getting out of the fence and coming over in the yard and rooting in the flower bed there around the house. So we got home from Meekle after church, and while Mother Long was getting something to eat, everybody else was busy. Uncle Don and I were out on the porch, and we corralled one of these shoats in the yard. So somehow, I don't know whether you did or I did, got a hold of some kerosene, and we smeared that shoat with a bunch of kerosene under its tail and turned it loose, headed for Gillespie's. And it went down the road just a squealing, just jumping all the way. And your dad, he saw the pig, he didn't know what was wrong, but he got wind of what had happened, and he figured if that pig got overheated there, somebody could have a pig to pay for it. But Gillespie never said anything.
You know,
We'd have more pigs.
go back a little bit on this history deal, comical things that happened. Neal and I brought up to him today, as I come over, I came through Lamont. And Dad, you know, was a county commissioner. His first election was won by the toss of a coin because he and the guy running against Henderson had tie votes.
Yeah.
So Dad became county commissioner as a result of judge.
That was his second term, wasn't it?
No, first
I
one.
thought the second term.
First one.
I've
Judge
got-
Stevenson down there.
I've got their newspaper clipping on
Okay.
it, but I don't think there's a date on
But
it.
Dad was awful proud of Grant County. Well, I am too, really. But Dad was real proud of it. So they had these watermelon feeds down there in Lamont. And Dad never missed one of them. That wasn't his district, but it was his county. Well, this particular day now,
He had a coop.
we had a 29 coupe with a jump seat in the back. Boy, it was fun when I was running around with the girls. But we had 2 dogs on the farm. Now, don't ever dump dogs on people or cities or anything. We had 2 dogs out there, and one of them, I think, was sucking eggs while this all happened. But Neal and I said,
Particularly fond of your dad was fond of.
Neal and I decided we had to get rid of those dogs. So Neal and I was going with Dad down to Lamont to this watermelon feed that day.
Lois was with us.
Was Lois? All 4 of us in that coop.
That's right.
Okay, but we had these 2 dogs. Neal and I put them in the jump seat, closed the jump seat down, and one of these dogs was big, and I don't remember the other. We went down there to Lamont after Dad and all of us got out and away from there. Pretty soon Neal and I went back. We opened that jump seat up and whistled the
Out came
dogs.
the dogs. They had been stifled in
Yeah, they been hot in that thing. Middle of summer at least. Okay, they got out. Neal and I have laughed about it since. Dad died in 1936, and I'd still like to ask Dad, did you know we hauled those 2 dogs down there and turned
because
them
he knew the dogs were missing when we got back to the farm.
And I know good and well that he said, yeah, I know, but I went along with it.
I'll tell you one thing about Mother. One time, she always went down, there was a bunch of hens that laid eggs in the mangers down there at the barn, say. Well, she reached over there to get the eggs, and there was a big old snake all coiled around. She got instead of calling me, I was up at the house, she got a pitchfork, and lucky she got that snake through the head. She dragged him out over the manger, dragged him outside, and put it up on the side of the door. And when she got that thing up so the pitchfork would still hang, not too straight, see, the doggone tail of that thing was still about 6 or 8 inches on the ground. Now that was a big bull snake.
And those things would hiss at you too.
Tell me a little bit about Grandmother Long. You know, I personally didn't ever know Grandmother Long at all. And see, I was born in 34. Grandfather Long passed away in 36, so 2-year-old, I didn't know him.
31.
And Grandmother Long passed away in
31. October 31. Right?
Up at,
Mother died in October 31.
Edwin, have you ever read the letter that she wrote to who?
Well, now she
And
had leukemia.
The summer
See.
before she died in October. That is priceless. Y'all
Now,
have,
Bill's
Isn't that the
got
one you read at the
did she tell
reunion
everybody
that
that
time?
came to visit that summer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's a beauty. That was.
But I tell
she
you
loved
what,
everybody.
she was one that they just don't make them like her.
but I'll tell you,
She's
the
very
little,
quiet.
little Spitfire was Grandma.
Oh,
Grandma
Grandma
Lois?
Lois, yeah.
Loans.
Uncle Lloyd and I, we got in bed with her while we were up at the farm. Uncle Don was her pet.
Yeah.
Boy, she, if Grandma Lois would argue with her
And I
Mother Long
I want-
about anything, it was about Don.
I want to interrupt you just a minute, and then you go ahead. But all these other guys had to get up early in the morning and go down to the barn to milk. I never did have to, because Grandma Lois took care of that. And really, I don't think I ever had to get up early.
But she
I don't think you did either.
I don't believe I did.
Spoiled brat. Times
Grandma
were different. Times were
Lois
different.
could heat up
You
like a
didn't miss it.
firecracker.
I
But
tell you,
anyhow, Uncle Don was, I forget what it was, but Uncle Lloyd and I were, when you folks were living in Manchester. And it was one morning, and anyhow, between the two of us, we got to chasing Uncle Don around the house. He was running from us. And finally, we divided up, one going one way and one the other, and we got him hemmed in. And Grandma Lois came out, and she blessed both of us. Are you big overgrown boys out here mistreating this poor little boy? We pulled in our horns real quick.
she's the only friend I had there. I always felt bad about one thing I did to Mother and Dad, and you guys never did do anything like that. But you remember one time Mother went to California to be with Aunt Dora and Grandma Lois?
Yeah.
And we were living there in the Meltzer house there in Manchester when this happened. And I was mad because Dad wouldn't do something for me or let me do something. Dad had written a letter to Mother, and I don't know how long she was out there, probably not too long. But he said, son, you write something to your mother. Well, I was already mad, and then I got madder when I had to write something. So I made a derogatory remark in there about what Dad was doing while she was gone. It was a lie. I was mad. And Dad asked me, he said, son, you tell your mother that you didn't mean what you said. And I never did tell her that. And I still feel bad about that. To Dad and Mother both. I really do now. But I was a mean little kid.
Now, one thing about
You were spoiled rotten.
if we hadn't run out of time,
I
I've got a lot of
smelled that
things
way
here I
most
want
of
to
the
tell.
time.
But one thing some of you don't recall, the times we used to have, Charlie, I think, will remember it. On Memorial Day and Decoration Day, as we have it, we always went to Bluff City, Kansas for the program. And there'd be a morning, and then you'd have a basket dinner, then talks in the afternoon. And I remember one year was William Allen White, who later was governor, wasn't he, of Kansas? The senator won.
He's a
They-
writer.
Right. But they had the highest praise it was, would come to that place and talk. And there'd be literally hundreds of people, I don't know how many hundred, it's big. And one year we went up there to the services, and Dad traded Surreys with John Cliff. And that evening it's time to go home, and of course Mother was anxious to ride in new Surrey, and we kids was ready, but Dad was just busy, he just didn't have time. And he just kept it going, and Mother was worried about getting home. And finally, just about dark, we started. and we got south of Bluff City about 1.5 miles or 2 miles, and Dad said, whoa. And we all wondered what was up. Dad got out and lit the 2 lights that was on the side of that Surrey.
Kerosene lights.
Kerosene lights, and we drove home with those kerosene lights on.
Boy, I bet you thought
And
you
you
were
had
in
something new, and he was sure proud of that Surrey with those kerosene lights.
And the fridge on top of that.
And the dogs, of course, would bark at you at every place you went by.
How
And
far
that
was
sure-
Bluff City from the farm?
10 mile.
It always seemed like it was miles and miles and
Yeah,
miles to
it
me.
really did.
It wasn't a horse and buggy.
I tell you what, Dad was terrific with horses, livestock, especially horses. But Uncle John was a guy that could talk to the horses, and when he got through talking to them, the skin fell off and such as that. Uncle John was a tough old boy, now I'll tell you. And kind of like Uncle Joe, you could hear him from miles.
Those Shetlands got the best of it.
Yes, they did.
Claire May, was you speaking about a letter that, no, it was
Yeah.
Betty that Mother had written?
Well, they read it out.
I've got the last letter that she ever wrote,
Yeah, that's it.
and
About the
I've got
reason-
one that Grandpa Long wrote her before they got married,
Oh, I didn't see that.
congratulating her on choosing Dad to marry.
Oh,
Now, the
her
reason they got together, in old Oklahoma, Grandpa Long staked the northeast quarter of the section. Grandpa Lonis staked the
Northwest.
northwest quarter of the
Dover?
same section.
Down there, in
Out there
Dover?
by
That's
the
right.
old
And each
city.
of
And
them
the
gave back
cemetery
fruits to the cemetery.
is put right half acre on each one of
Each
them.
one of them?
Banner Cemetery.
And if you want any old letters, I'm gonna give it to you. I'll get a copy for you.
All right, Uncle
That's,
Lloyd, I want you to tell
Banner Cemetery Association.
how Uncle Bill Lonis died.
I want the date on it.
No, I want Uncle Lloyd. Daddy has told his story and I don't believe it. And I want you to tell. Was he at Halstead?
Uncle Bill Lonis came
to
from
Garber.
to Garber from California in a red Chevrolet that he bought down at off the people there that run the refinery. And he drove it back out to California, and he drove it out.
Just a minute, you're gonna have to retell this one. We gotta change tape.
Hold the phone.
Hold the phone, hold everything.
Whose funeral did y'all go to out there in 1937 when you drove straight out there?
Uncle Dan, Aunt Laura's husband.
Huh?
I was
Dan Armitage.
I didn't go out in Kansas City.
I was living in Woodward at the time and saw them all.
Ready?
They told me if I'd fly, they'd meet me in somewhere out west, and I couldn't get out of school.
It was a hurried up trip.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I remember they all got together and
And then your folks, your dad, your mother, and Aunt Lois and I, we all rode down for Uncle.
Okay.
Well,
They're
Grandma
Fort
Long
Worth.
wasn't living then.
Well, Betty Jean wanted to know about Uncle Bill
Lonis.
Lonis. He had this, and he took several cases of eggs to California in the red Chevrolet after he bought it, and took them out there and sold them to pay for his gasoline. They were so much more valuable in California than here. It helped to pay his way back. Well, then he got sick. We didn't know how sick he was, and he came back here. He'd written, and he came back here to make his home with us when we lived there on the highway. And
He was
moved.
gonna live at your house?
Live at our
Yeah,
house.
retired.
He had all of his stuff that he had is in that, and we fixed him. He was going to fix a room, we fixed a place, and he'd just been there about a week when he says, I got to go to the hospital and I want to go to Halstead. Well, he went ahead and drove up to Halstead, and he got up to Halstead and found out that he's going to have surgery. They called back, and I drove to Halstead then to be up there when he had surgery. And he got up there, and the day that they got ready for surgery, they asked if I wanted to stay in and watch it, and I told them sure. And everything was getting along fine until they parted his gown and put methylate on his back, and that's when I keeled over and passed out.
And he's done that ever since.
And the next thing I knew, I was out on the porch. They took me out where I could get some air, and I passed out there and run my head through a wheelchair. So I decided I didn't want to go back in. Well, that night, after surgery, he come out of it all right, but he began to weaken, and he had to have a blood transfusion, and there wasn't any blood that would available that would match his. And there was one, and there was one over at, I forget what town they might be able to get, and he says, have you given blood? And I said, no. And he says, and they typed my blood, and they thought it would be compatible, but now we know that it wasn't. It was, the primary was right, but the extra didn't match. So they asked me to go in, and I laid down on a cot right side of Uncle Bill, and they hooked in my vein and passed right over to his vein. Laid there, and little Bitty began to come to, and said, well, it's you. And I said, yes, I'm over here, everything's all right. Well, he says, I get some of that Irish blood in me, I'll be all right. But he never did come out of it. He lived that part of that night and the next day, and then
He had a kidney removed.
yeah, well, kidney stone.
The stone just about filled the kidney, the story I heard, it was.
Yeah, and so when he died, then we come home, and I forget, I drove his car down or something, but we finally got his car down, and the undertaker from Anthony come up and picked up the body.
It's Waukeeta.
Yeah, Waukeeta, yeah.
It's Steve.
He could stay on, that's the one I mean. And he picked the body up, and we had the funeral at Bluff City. And at the funeral that day, a fella come up to me and says, Mr. Long, you don't know who I am. My name is Miller. And he says, I want to tell you about this uncle of yours. Says, I can recall when I was a little boy, and one night it just about dark, and the dogs began to bark at our house, and I went out to see what they was barking at, and there stood a little boy, about 6 years old, 6, 7 years old. And I said, who are you? And he says, I'm Billy Lonis. And he says, well, what do you want? He said, I want to see your daddy. And he said, he's out the barn. And he took me out, and I took him out then to the barn, and I says, here's Billy Lonis wants to see your daddy. And he says, well, where'd you come from? Well, he says, my mother is down at the Salt Fork River. She was fording it yesterday, and she broke the wagon wheel down. And she said that you'd take me over to Uncle Thee's, and he would bring the wagon wheel back down. Well, it turned out that the wagon wheel had broke, nobody came across the ford at all. The next morning, that night, the wolves were in the perimeter, they kept a fire, or the coyotes, whatever you want to call them, and they kept a fire that whole night, and she got up early and fixed breakfast for him, had his sack, lunch sack, and she said, now Billy, you've got to go and get help. And she wrote a note, as I recall, to give him, so if somebody else saw it, she'd know he's right. He said, now you'll have to walk steady, don't ever lay down. You can sit down, but don't ever lay down. And he walked from early in the morning when daybreak came, and he walked down this trail, nothing at all, but just a trail. And she told him if it got dark, when he got up there in Kansas, when he got up there, he would see this one high place, and there'd be a light up on top of it. That's where Gene Slaughter lived for a long time.
Well, was
that was Miller Hill.
Was that old Miller Hill?
That's the old Miller Hill.
Yeah.
And he'd
Right north of the farm.
walked that distance. I don't know what distance it is, but it's
Been 20-some miles, probably.
well, I think
And
it's
6
longer than
years
that.
old?
What?
6 years old?
6, 7 years old. And it was the only way they had to get out.
Yeah.
What year did Uncle Bill Lonis die?
I got to go to the bathroom.
Have fun.
You lived on the
During
highway.
World War II.
I lived on the highway.
Dorothy, we were in Perry when he died. When was that? Uncle Bill came by our house in Perry when he moved back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sit there.
And he stayed with us a few days.
Good.
Was that about the way your dad
Don't
was?
sit right on back.
See, I couldn't
We
find
were
it.
at
37 or
Wagner.
38. He thought
During the
that he
war, we
died
was at Wagner.
while you were on cot and he was on the table and your
There's
blood
that
was,
door.
Little
Well,
Dan.
blood was going back
Yeah.
to that, but it was during that night that he died.
the blood wasn't right.
You're right.
But see, I just couldn't believe that they did it that way in those days, but they did.
Did the X-ray, Lloyd?
But
Did the X-ray?
It could've been old blood, maybe not.
I don't think they had an X-ray.
Or an old 80, or I'm not sure.
Most said they were.
I think so. I think they,
You know, that many years ago.
Halstead, did he?
What year were you born?
It seemed
Our